I'm in second grade, but I look like a little bride. I'm all dressed in white. I've got a white fingertip-length veil on. I've got a white dress with puffy sleeves, and the dress poofs out a little bit because there are petticoats under it, white anklets, and brand new white patent leather shoes. It's my first Holy Communion. I love this day. I remember that outfit, even though it's borrowed from my cousin. But those shoes are mine. I don't remember much about the sacrament of communion, though. I don't remember the taste of the host as Jesus enters me and is about to fortify my soul forever. I don't remember much except being among hundreds of second graders, 7-year-olds, reverently walking into a small church, Holy Family Parish in Hicksville. We're walking in, and you have to imagine 200, 300, 400 kids, that's a lot for the nuns to control. But the nun in charge, she has her ways. Sister Petronella is off the boat from Ireland, and she brought with her a trinity of techniques. The first technique, she could bore a hole in your soul with her blue eyes. The next technique, it's kind of a half lean, a half step in. She leans over and she looks at you closely, and her hands are behind her back, and you're really hoping the big kids are lying when they say she may have a ruler back there. The third technique is she raises the pitch and the volume of that Gaelic voice. Well, on that day, in that church, one little 7-year-old girl does something so egregious that Sister Petronella explodes. That little girl starts to cry, and that triggers a river of tears through the church. I also remember this, that borrowed or not, I love that get-up so much I couldn't wait to get home and run down the block and show all of my friends. But on the way down the street, I tripped over a piece of concrete in the sidewalk that was broken, and that ripped the sole right off the bottom of my white patent leather shoes. Now, my mother was a great woman. She was understanding, she was patient, but she was also raised with, I guess, what you'd call refinement. And in her mind, I would not be doing the next day follow through. The next day is the Sunday when all the kids come back to church again, dressed up like little communicants to receive their second Holy Communion. Well, apparently the black patent leather shoes that I had did not go with that white dress, and so I wasn't participating. I was devastated. The next year, the phone rings. My brothers and I are off the waiting list. We're leaving public school. We're going to the Catholic school there. Now, a couple of things change. We're going to wear a uniform every day. We're also going to be sitting in classrooms with 49 other kids at the very least. But besides that, things were pretty normal. We were going to go to church every Sunday on holy days, confession at the very least, once a month, because our mother did. It's not just that she said it, but she showed us. She says, this is what Catholics do. This is what Catholic families do. And so we're going not because we want to leave cartoons on a Sunday morning, not because we're thinking about getting closer to God. We're going because that is what we do. We go to church, we go through Catholic school, and I'm in 8th grade. And now it's obvious I should be applying to Catholic high schools. And so I do, and I know that I'm a shoo-in because I've won the 8th grade General Excellence Award. My brother's asking me, how'd you do that? And I say, listen, I just never got caught. Well, I'm accepted to the new high school that's just 5 houses from where we live, Holy Trinity High School, and I walk there with my brother. I walk there every day with him, and I'm starting to walk into a relationship with God. Now, some of the credit has to go to my 9th grade religion teacher. John Ahern was young, he had long hair, he was good-looking, and he was a hippie. We held religion class sitting on the ground together, and he said, while pointing to this oak tag poster taped to his desk, in this class, there will be no cursing, but if you're really frustrated, you can say this, framp. I go through 9th grade, and I'm starting to actually have conversations with God, 9th grade, 10th grade, but a lot of them are definitely based on teenage angst. I get to 12th grade, and it's time to apply to college, and I get accepted to a Catholic college, but my parents say, hey, we don't have the money for that. So now I'm walking into 4 years of secular college. I go through, I graduate, and it's a warm June night after college graduation when I run into a college friend in the parking lot of a bar where I'm going to meet friends. I say, Robbie, how are you? What have you been doing? He says, I'm reading my Bible. What about you? And I said very reluctantly, I'm reading my Bible too? Robbie becomes a lifelong friend. I go home and I meet his mom, and his mom is Nana Rita. She becomes my second mentor. I start to get involved now in my 20s in starting a Christian coffee house, going to prayer meetings, charismatic masses. But God is only a part of my life because I'm doing those things sometimes, not all the time. God doesn't have a starring role. Then I get to my 30s. I meet a great guy. We're getting married, and we're telling everybody that God is our third and not-so-silent partner. We have babies. There's no doubt that these children are going to be baptized. There's no doubt that they're going to Catholic school. Well, no doubt in my mind that they're going to Catholic school. My husband is a public school kid. He needs a little convincing, and I have just what he needs. I take him to meet Sister Connie. Sister Connie is the legendary Montessori-trained pre-K teacher who teaches the little 3- and 4-year-olds how to love learning, but also how to love God. My husband's sold. As the kids start to go through elementary and high school, we start teaching pre-Cana. It's a marriage prep class for couples getting married in the Catholic Church. We teach it for 22 years, and now people are starting to ask me, where is this faith coming from? And my answer is, it's pretty simple. We all want to belong to something bigger. We all want to find a place where there's peace and where we have purpose. And for me, for us, that's really the church. And so we go on and teach, and our kids grow. And our daughter Connor is now in 12th grade, and she comes home from her Catholic high school in her comparative religion class and says, hey, guess what? I figured out my faith. Oh, really? What is it, honey? It's Connorism. I said, Connor, you're a teenager. Your religion has been Connorism for years. But then God blesses me. She goes off to the University of Maryland. She meets an amazing guy. They date a number of years. They get engaged. This guy is a graduate from the best all-boys Catholic high school in Baltimore. And they're getting married April 18th, 2020, and it's going to be a church wedding. But during the planning, 7 months before that, suddenly I have a doctor's appointment. I have a new doctor who's figured out the reason for my cough for the past 2 years. I show up at that office of Dr. Naga Sitharamu with my husband on one side and my great friend Kathy on the other side. Kathy is also a nurse, so that's a bonus round. Dr. Sitharamu is tiny, and she walks in the room, looks at us, and says, you have stage 4 cancer. You have a golf ball-sized tumor in your lung, and it's spread to 12 more tumors in your brain. And with that, the room goes silent. Until we hear, thank you, God, for my healing. We all looked around, surprised. Nobody more surprised than me. That began an almost 5-year journey. 4 rounds of cancer, brain radiation, lung radiation, surgeries, all the after effects of the drugs. But I go into every one of those chapters with peace, with a smile. And now I've got this growing team of doctors, and they diagnosed me with a terminal case of hope, of optimism. And I never really thought about where that optimism came from until recently. I'm only telling you this next part because you really need to have some perspective. Now, I go to Mass every day like my mom used to. But I've only been doing it for a year. I was not doing it 5 years ago. And I don't go to Mass because I'm a survivor who's actually looking for a way to win at whack-a-mole. No, I go to Mass because I'm retired. I have time. And honestly, it is the best way to start my day. So at a recent Mass, our pastor, Father Tom, said, this is one of my favorite days. He was going into the classroom of the second graders who were going to receive communion, and he asks them every year, what's your favorite baseball team? And half the kids are yelling Yankees, and the other half are yelling Mets. Hey, it's New York, you know? And Father Tom says, These kids don't have a favorite team because they've figured it out. Their parents have figured it out. These kids have a favorite team because kids do what their parents do. Kids show up for where their parents show up. And I thought about that for a while. I thought that I show up looking for faith because my mother showed up looking for faith. I showed up looking for faith because my mother was the one who went to church. Well, September 26, 2019, when I showed up in Dr. Sita Ramu's office, the great news is faith was right alongside me. Faith was right there. And so I continued planning to show up for a very, very long time. In fact, I plan to show up for so long that I am planning my 95th birthday party. Mariachis and all. And I want you to know you're all invited, but please just show up. Thank you.